of last class that we had last month. So the last class was the first class of our Lunar Return workshop series, where we are introducing new topics, new concepts, as well as already existing ones that we're learning to now synthesize together with our chart for the month, and also, of course, the chart for the year ahead. You can apply it to your solar return, you can apply it to your natal chart, and so forth. So this class over here, this workshop, really is a continuation of what we learned. We're going to be reviewing a lot of the concepts, but we're also going to be introducing new ones. And these are mainly going to be revolving around the ascendant. This is the main theme for this workshop, is the ascendant. We're going to review some of the concepts from last workshop, and we're going to introduce some new tips of things that you can do with the ascendant. Now, I really hope that everyone has their charts with them. This is a very important thing moving forward. I know the first class I was like, okay, if you want, you can bring. The first class was just introducing a lot of things. Now, this class, I'm going to be bringing up my own chart in the end as part of an example to show you what I'm talking about, what I'm referring to, and you can start to do that now as well with your chart and hopefully charts, because hopefully you will have more than one chart with you. You can have your loved ones, you can have your children's charts, and you can absolutely, definitely have last month's and next month's charts with you. This is where it starts to get exciting. Oh my God, start getting worked up. I'm telling you this because I'm remembering what we had the meeting with the girls, and that's what we did. Getting your last month's and then getting next month's, it starts to come together, and you're like, oh my God, you can hardly wait for the next one already. So if you have the one from the last workshop with you, and you have the next one coming up as well, this is fantastic. You're going to love this class. And if you don't, you can always watch the replay and have the chart with you. Printed, of course, is always better to take notes, okay? So if you have your lunar return charts with you, I want you to look at them right now. And I just want to go over some very basic principles here, but important. My dear Myra reminds me of to remind you guys of some things that are very important for me to say, because sometimes I forget, like very, very, very important basic things, but you need to know. So one of them is that, actually, let me start with the transits before I forget, because it's here on my list. Just to clear, what is a lunar return and a transit? A lot of you have been asking me this. This is a very simple thing. Sometimes I take it for granted because I'm always doing videos on transits and YouTube, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm here talking about lunar returns, and there's a difference. There's a difference. And then you hear natal charts, progress charts, solar return charts. What you need to know is that transits deal with current planetary energies. Natal charts don't deal with current planetary energies. They're based on the date you were born. Progress chart as well. Progress chart is not based on current. It's based on another cycle, another calculation. Okay. Solar returns, they're based on current alignments only at the time of your solar return. And then it's that energy for the entire year. Okay. Lunar return is similar, but it's for the month. The lunar return registers the current alignments. So yes, it does work with transits, but it's a specific alignment, specific transits that will carry on for the month ahead. So whenever I use the term transits, I'm talking about what Mr. Uranus is doing right now in the sky. Right now, Mr. Uranus is talking to my natal Venus and my natal Mercury. Thank you very much. So that's transiting Uranus, And if I look at my progress chart, which is another chart, it's just another calculation, another conversation. But whenever I say transits, I'm talking about now, today, what's happening. Lunar return charts, as well, solar return charts, they're based on transits. But they're whatever the planet is doing, bam, at the time that your sun for the solar return reaches the same place as it was when you were born. For your moon, it's whatever the planets are doing, whatever the transits are doing at the time that the moon reaches the same sign and degree as it was when you were born. Okay, so now that we have transits defined, look at your chart. And if you have different people's charts with you in front of you, you're going to understand what I'm going to say next. Those charts are going to have both very similar things and very different things. Ooh, why is that? Very similar things because they're dealing with transits. They're dealing with alignments that are happening now. And the alignments that are happening now, they're happening for everybody. So especially the planets that move more slowly, okay, especially from Mars or especially from Jupiter on, these planets, they are going to be pretty much the same for everybody. And these are the same things that you're going to see in the chart. Like you're going to see a lot of the same squares, a lot of the same oppositions. You're going to see a lot of the same struggles and gifts in all the charts, most of the charts for the lunar returns ahead, especially if they're dealing with slower moving planets. Now, the faster moving planets, that's where it starts to change. So for a lot of people, this is based primarily on the moon. So this is the second thing. This is the thing you're going to see different from all the charts that you're going to work with, is that every lunar return chart is based on your moon sign. So unless you have the same moon as the other chart you're working with, let's say that you're working with your daughter's chart and you both have a Cancer moon. If you both have a Cancer moon, you're both going to have a very similar lunar return energy, especially if you're in the same location. Okay? Because that's going to generate a very similar chart to the person. But if you have a Cancer moon and your daughter has a Capricorn moon, you have to wait until the moon is in Capricorn for your daughter to start her lunar return. So you're going to be starting lunar returns in different times of the month. And your chart is probably going to look very different than, not very different, but it's going to have more differences than someone, say, that would have a moon in Leo, which is the next sign after Cancer. So as the moon progresses through the signs, people are having their lunar returns. When it's in Cancer, everybody that has moon in Cancer is having their lunar returns. When it's in Leo, everybody in Leo is having lunar returns with that, and so forth. And so whatever the transits are doing at that time in the sky, they create the chart for your month ahead. And this is like your new moon chart. I like to work with the new moon chart and then my lunar return. Or if I don't have time for both, I'll work just with my lunar return. Because the lunar return is your emotional lunar moon influence, your emotional awareness of that month. And this is why the lunar return charts are a chart that is very subtle in influence, in nature, in energy. And this is why you're not going to feel everything in there. And some of the things, like maybe you'll see a certain, let's say, moon square Mercury for a lunar return that you're not even going to really feel it that much. Or maybe you will on another one. On another, you'll feel super, very much the square, depending on different factors. But the lunar return chart overall is not, you don't have to read and interpret the entire chart. There are only key things that you need to be aware of from the lunar return. So, okay, so this was just to really clarify what the lunar return chart is. I think this is very important moving forward. Otherwise, we're going to start building on top of not a solid foundation here. I don't want to start adding information with all these little questions that they're important questions and they need to be answered. So this is very important for those that are intending on taking this seriously and following up and doing these monthly workshops. Okay, lunar return charts are monthly, your personal monthly chart. They're going to be different depending on your moon sign, depending on the location you're at as well. Maybe you and your daughter have that Cancer moon. If you spend your lunar return together in the same place, you're going to have a very, 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 very similar chart. If you spend it in completely different time zones, the farther the time zone, the greater the difference. The charts are going to be different. Why? I teach about this, and if you have any questions, please refer to, again, it's in the very beginning one of the videos. Myra, if you remember the name, you can put it in the chat. But I talk about this concept of the ascendant in someone's chart, and the distribution of the houses, they have to do with the location and, of course, the time as well. But depending on where you're at, you can get two people with Cancer moon. If they're in different locations, they're going to get different ascendants and house distributions of the signs. And yes, this matters. It matters. Everything matters. Because when you're working with houses, signs, and planets, you're working with combinations. And an ascendant in Cancer versus an ascendant in Capricorn is going to tell a very different story, as you're going to see, because the focus here is going to be the ascendant. So this is, again, to reiterate and emphasize and remind you of something that we've already covered and we've already learned. This is not a new concept. It's in the foundation, as a matter of fact, because this is a foundation of understanding astrology, is that space and time matters when it comes to astrology. This is why the correct time, the correct location is important. And this is why when you're working with lunar returns and solar returns, you're going to use the location that you're in right now. This is a question a lot of people have. Do I use the location of where I was born? I've heard some astrologers that do, and it makes sense. It's valid for me. My Libra overload is just always seeing the equality and everything. But I have to tell you from experience, I've done my own research for many years, and I personally definitely see much more of an objective overview of your year ahead, if it's a solar return, and lunar returns for your month ahead, if you use the location you're at. That means city, state, country. You can also use where you're born, and you also see synchronicities in the same thing, but I find it to be much more objective when you use your location. So you have two people with the same moon and you put them in the same location, it's going to give them the same, very similar placements and very similar things here. But if you put them in different locations, it may, depending on the location, depending on how far it is, depending on the time zone, it may change the house distribution and the degrees. This is important because you'd be surprised at how sometimes even 1 or 2 degrees difference for the ascendant will make a difference. As you're going to see, especially when I pull up my chart to show you the example, you're going to see how the ascendant is so important. And literally, the degree matters. That's one of my points here. I wrote down, the degree of the ascendant matters. We're not going to get too in detail about, all the examples of how it could matter because it's so extensive and that's a lot to cover. But I will tell you that location matters. And sometimes, even if you think it's just like 1 or 2 degrees, it's still the same sign. You'd be surprised at how sometimes that 1 or 2 degree will bring something, a message to your month ahead. Okay? Any questions so far? You guys feel free to unmute your mics. Okay. So now we are going to, this is a great segue into really focusing on the ascendant now, because I hope that you all have clear now what the lunar return chart is and, the important things that we should be mindful of, and just understand also what these workshops are for and what they're meant for. We're really preparing you now for the next level of your journey with astrology. So, ascendant, let's review. On the last lunar return workshop, we talked a lot about the quality of the ascendant point being very important for your month ahead, right? Was someone saying something here? No, I think it was my brush. So the quality of your ascendant is really important for your month ahead. This is the title. This is, if you're writing notes, if you're taking anything down, that's it. What does that mean? This means that I introduce this concept again. Please watch the other video if you haven't, because the first video had a lot of very important concepts that I'm not going to be covering here in this class again. But one of them was the ascendant. This concept is so important because this concept will be applied to any chart that you work with, any chart you work with. It's all about the ascendant. The ascendant is the starting point. Again, making reference to one of my first videos in Foundation, explaining why the ascendant is so important in any chart. It implies that 0 degrees Aries, which is the cardinal point. This is where, mathematically, this is where it begins. And it's equivalent to that energy of the 0 Aries, which is one of the super powerful energies in the zodiac, 0 Aries. So ascendant is super important, period, in any chart. And we're seeing that in practice now. We're seeing that live now. We're seeing that on our skin now. Here in this class, we're seeing that the ascendant is important, and we are applying it to a chart called a lunar return chart. But this concept can be applied to any chart. So, with your ascendant for the lunar return, what you're looking for here is the theme for your month ahead. The same way that for the solar return chart, the ascendant is going to denote your theme for the year ahead. And on your natal return, oh my God, I need coffee. That's so awesome, natal return. How does that work? You have to die and come back. On your natal chart, that's my Mars and Gemini. I gotta have fun sometimes. Your natal chart will, and this is even more profound here. Your natal chart will show you the theme for your life. And this is where, if you're not in this part of the course yet, I'd start teaching about this when I get to archetypes. And we really get into the importance of the ascendant for the natal chart. So if you're already in archetypes, you can refer to, it's the first video on the archetypes. I talk about the first house and the ascendant. But the ascendant on the lunar return is showing you your theme for the month ahead. So you could do, my dears, you could do a whole reading just on the ascendant. And this is why I spend a whole lunar return workshop just getting intimate with the ascendant, explaining, reviewing. I'm going to pull up my chart. I'm going to introduce new topics because that's how important it is. You know, I will tell you from experience that for me, my relationship with astrology is very intimate, and it's very intuitive, and it's very feminine as well. And I really want to pass this to you because it's easy, I feel, to get lost a little bit in the linear form of the process, which is also very important, but it's definitely not the only one. And if you only use the linear, it gets too cut and dry, and you take the heart and soul and the meaning and everything from it. You don't have the essence. And so that's why you can read a lot of astrology horoscopes or just different things, and it's just like, okay, it's interesting information, but it doesn't make you feel like, it just hit you like, yes. You know, this is what astrology should bring to you. And you only have this level of intimacy with astrology when you have that really feminine, intuitive interaction with it. And you have to just be really open to reading in between the lines and looking at astrology as a living being, a conscious being. And when you understand the ascendant point with that level of intimacy, you can do a whole chart reading on that, because the ascendant is going to speak to you It's not just the linear, okay, what comes next? What is the ascendant good for? No, you're using the knowledge, but you're also using your feminine intuitive intimacy with these concepts and the essence of what it represents in your life. And you are able to just really tap into a profound message for your month ahead. And you're going to start to see this as the months go by. And by the third lunar return workshop, when you bring your third chart with you, you're going to be really feeling what I'm talking about. This is going to be really making sense to you. Because now your Gemini ascendant for your lunar return chart is not just talking about, hey, I'm going to be more playful, more adaptable. Like, there's a message here. And I'm using Gemini because that was my lunar return for the month. And bam, all about what does Mercury rule? Not technology, but the platform, my studies, our school, our classroom, the members, like everything. But also the message, if I hadn't sat with that after my moment of panic that I had when I lost everything, if I hadn't sat with it, I wouldn't understand the fuller meaning. I literally, when I was up in the mountains freaking out, yelling at the stars, dancing with the energies, I'm like, what's going on? Like, Uranus on my ascendant has to vent somewhere. I'm like, come on. After all that, after I vent, this is how I work. I'm like, I kick and scream, all my energies like, now speak to me. I'm surrendered. Then I start remembering my chart. That's where my chart comes in handy, because that's when I start to read in between the lines and I start to make sense of what's happening in my life. And this is where astrology transitions from being just, something cool that we're learning into a life-changing, life-saving system, art, and companion for us. So when you understand, I understood Gemini, Mercury, of course I made the connections and so forth, and I know it's time to speed up the timelines, Raquel. The grandfathering, no, it's not going to happen in 2, 3, 4 months from now. It's going to happen now. Change of plans. So when you look at your ascendant, now hopefully after all of this, I've imparted the importance of the ascendant. And the quality of the ascendant is so important. So if you don't remember what we talked about in the last video, watch the replay. If you haven't seen it, watch it. And if you've seen it and forgot, watch it again. We're looking here for the quality of the sign as a very first basic step. Modality, element. Write down those keywords. If you haven't already, write it down. I know many of you are still on the same lunar return that you were in our last class. That's okay. That's even better, because now you're seeing your lunar return. It's starting to wrap up. You're going to begin your new lunar return soon. So now you should be able to have a good idea of the qualities and some of the energies that your ascendant brought to you this month. If you've already closed that and you already started the next lunar return, same thing. Write down those keywords if you remember. For me, I have to do it right away, otherwise I don't remember. Every day is like a new clean slate, and it's just like, I got to do it right away. I don't know about you. I leave my lunar return out and I just go adding the keywords as they come. Write keywords that you feel are specific to your path this month. The quality of the ascendant is super important. That was the main thing, right, that we talked about as far as the ascendant goes. We talked about the moon as well and some other things, but I'm not going to cover it here. Please review it, watch it again, or watch the replay for the first time if you haven't already. There's a lot of very important paving the way things over there too. In this one, I'm going to introduce new concepts for the ascendant. Number one, we already briefly talked about it. The degree matters. Now, I'm sure many of you are like, how does it matter? Of course you are. And I love that about you. However, it's a very long and extensive subject. So we're going to be introducing why the degree matters little by little. I will introduce a few. I'm going to introduce one concept here right now, and another one when I pull up my chart. You're going to see why the degree matters. But there's going to be more as we go along. Okay. Now, some of you will see that your ascendant for the month ahead, Your ascendant doesn't have anything going on. Maybe it's a 17 Libra, okay? And there's nothing going on there for you. It's okay. You're still looking at the quality of the sign. We're starting to stack up now because now I'm introducing the degree. Okay, so we already talked about the quality. Now we're introducing the degree. Soon we're going to introduce what if there's a planet in there? What if you get oh my God, what if you get for your ascendant point for the lunar return, you get the spot where transiting Uranus is right now, 10 Taurus. And transiting Uranus at 10 Taurus is just stationing retrograde. That's a big deal. What do you think that your theme for the month ahead is saying to you right off the bat? See what I mean? So the degree matters. And sometimes a planet is going to come up there too because the transiting planet is on that degree. Maybe the sun is going to be there. Maybe the north node is going to be there. So you're going to see that we're going to start stacking here. And this is why an understanding of the signs, the houses, and the planets is very important. You need to have that squared away. If you don't, this may get overwhelming. But with an understanding of just the basic signs, houses, and so forth, whatever I said, that's enough. But now we're stacking. So quality is one thing. Now we're moving into degrees. If you feel this is getting too complicated for you, or if you feel that you don't have anything significant to work with, put that on hold, go drink your water, go review your quality, the modality, and so forth. We're stacking now, okay? The degree matters. One of the things that I'm going to introduce to you here, many of you are going to get ascendant lunar returns that are in the very beginning degrees or the very ending degrees of a sign. Overall, this is another concept that is applicable for any chart, my dears, any chart, but not losing focus. Lunar returns. Ascendant also, let's not get distracted. You super intellectual air signs that are already looking at all the house cusps. Yes, that's also significant for house cusps, but it's a little bit different. Don't go there yet. Ascendant, let's stick to the ascendant. The ascendant point, generally speaking, when you are in the last few degrees, and I'm talking here 2 to 3 last degrees, you are wrapping up something, generally speaking, okay? You're going to go refining it with the techniques I'm going to teach you, but this is where you need to just be very receptive, feminine, intuitive. You just need to know right now that the ending degrees, you're wrapping something up. There is a sense of urgency to some degree. I know the word urgency can be strong, but don't go freaking out here. It is very different. There's a big difference if it's a 29 of a sign with a planet in there, or 29 of a sign without a planet in there. There's many variables, but there is an element of wrapping things up. Maybe you are leaving your house that you've lived in for like 10 years, your city, you're having a big move, so these things are going to show up. But it's important to know the 28 and especially the 29, it's just there's no way you can go wrong with that. 29 degrees for your ascendant, you're wrapping up. And for the natal chart, it's an important lifetime. You're wrapping up a cycle, or at least a theme of the cycle. Very important, that 29 degree for ascendants. It does also bring an element of maturity for the situation. So it can also bring the opportunity for conclusion, or the opportunity just for a more mature perspective and interaction with the situation. But there is an element of wrapping things up, okay? Some of you are going to get 29 degrees. If you've already gone crazy and printed all your lunar returns for the year, you're going to see that, hey, maybe for that year I'm getting a 29 of whatever sign, or maybe that one you're going to see that. So pay attention. That's one important thing of the ascendant. The other would be the opposite, 0 degrees, which would make what automatically? The opposite. It's a very new energy. 1, 2, maybe even 3 degrees of the sign can definitely imply the initial stages of a situation. Again, there's no good or bad here. It's just initial stages. It depends on other factors of your blueprint. Initial stages, it could be a new home, a new romance, it could be a new job, or it could also bring a very naive energy into the situation. The downside of this is that you want to be more mindful, because this is unknown territory for you for that month. There's something about the quality of that you need to pay attention more, be more focused, because it's developing. It's in the developing stages for you. So these are the pros and cons with the 0 and 29 degrees for the ascendant point. You're not going to get every lunar return, but when you do, pay attention. Other charts you're working with will get it. If it's not 0, 29, 28, and 1 degrees are also going to bring new energy, but it's energy, it's not brand new. It's already a little bit underway. This is where you have to use your intuition, a little bit of the logic too, with the numbers and so forth. But really, the 0, 29, very important for ascendants. Okay, that's a tip, very important tip I want to share with you. And then the last tip I want to share with you is that you're going to see that the planets, here it is, planets on the ascendant leave an imprint. So that's the other tip that I want to leave with you, because we're going to be talking more about what that means as the lessons go on. I'm going to pull up my chart here just for a few minutes to give you a visual of some of the things we talked about, and you're going to see a part of this concept visually. Okay? Planets on the ascendant leave an imprint, but it's a very big topic. There are many variables here. What if it's a planet from your natal chart that is coming up on the ascendant? You know, there are many variables, so there's different ways of working with it, and I don't want to overwhelm you too much. So we're going to be introducing these concepts as the classes go on, but for now, we're going to really focus. What you need to know is, what if a transiting planet shows up on your ascendant? For example, Myra's lunar return starts when? 28th. She was born with a Capricorn moon. So on the 28th, the transiting moon is going to be at 28 Capricorn. So that's going to initiate her lunar return. Well, at the time that her lunar return begins, boom, the alignments in the sky based on the location and the time, they put Virgo for her on, is it Virgo? Virgo on her ascendant. But not just Virgo. It also gets Mercury. Mercury is going to be in Virgo at the time of her lunar return, and it's the exact degree that matches her lunar return ascendant. Now, a lot of you are going to be getting this. Like Jen just said, she's getting her natal vertex. This is very significant. Anything you get on the ascendant is significant. Right now, I'm going to be mainly focusing on the transiting planets, because they're stuff that you're already going to see in your chart right away, depending on your lunar return. And if you see a transiting planet in the sky come up on your ascendant point for the month, this is really big. And it implies many things that we're going to be discussing as time goes on. But one of the main things you need to know is that that planet's function is a part of your theme for the month, somehow. Now, this is where we're going to be, as time goes on, using examples, answering questions. This is why we have the workshop, the gathering workshop, also offering to you as a chance to get together with students in the Facebook rooms that we're putting together now to really put into practice, because this is a lot of information and it's powerful information. And what I'm interested in now is you getting your charts and taking it to these rooms, taking it to these community gatherings, and having that space where you can see other people's in practice, see what their quality is like. Be curious about their charts too, not just your own. If you're really serious about learning astrology, you want to know what all the signs on the ascendant mean, because you're going to be getting them too. you know? So be curious about it. Let other people speak. Listen to how they ask questions. How did you feel your Virgo this last month? Ask what some of their keywords were. And you as well get your lunar return and present your, where you're at now with your journey, how you think that could be applying to your month ahead. Now, with Myra, she's getting for her month ahead Virgo on her ascendant. And Mercury, like I said, is going to be at the exact same degree where her ascendant is rising. So this places Mercury as a very important focus for her theme. And you see how you can do like a whole reading just based on the ascendant. Like you don't even need to worry about the other components here because there's so much you can get just with the ascendant. But if you get a planet or a point like Jen got the vertex point, it's a theme for your month ahead. And you need to like, man, if it was me, I like sit with that planet. Like, what do you got? What do you got for me? Like, let's have a chat here. We're doing this together. And especially at times like this, because we're getting a lot of intense aspects happening. Now, this coming month, it eases a little bit. You did see my new moon in Leo video, and it does ease a little bit, thank God. But we're still dealing with the cardinal square that everybody's getting. And I introduced this concept on the other Lunar Return workshop video. So again, if you didn't watch it, please watch it. These Lunar Return Shop series are going to be posted in the portal. They're going to be for you to access at any time you want, okay? So when we come back in a few days with the portal, it's going to be there. We can also email it to you if need be. Watch it again. There's many things that I introduced there that I'm not talking about here. But the cardinal square, you're getting it in different places of your chart. You're getting it in different places of your chart. And having the ability to sit with that square and understand the houses it's coming from and really meditate with that is going to be a lifesaver for you when stressful things happen in your month, because that's what the astrology is about. It's showing you your month. And you need to learn how to read in between the lines if you are going to really see the bigger perspective in this. And astrology helps you read in between the lines. So having a Mercury in Virgo for a lunar return for Myra, for example, may be different for someone else that may have a Capricorn moon and also having a lunar return just like Myra, and also maybe having a Virgo rising with Mercury there. They may be speaking about different things. Maybe for the person is speaking about their siblings, and this is where your understanding of astrology is important here. Because now you're going to start using your list, your things that I've given so many keywords, and there's so many resources in the mentorship platform that you can get started with there. And you are going to apply that to where you're at now. So Myra right now, she's in the middle of helping me with my work. She has a whole bunch of her projects going on. It's all computer stuff. It's all website related and a lot of Mercury related things too for her. So it's coming up in her Virgo ascendant. Now, for the other person, it may be talking about their siblings. The other person may not be doing anything with computers or technology or work, but they're in the middle of resolving a situation with their sibling. Then for this person, hey, maybe the cardinal square that we're talking about here, that everyone's getting for their lunar return because it's a slow transit, remember? So everyone's getting that transit somewhere. Then maybe that cardinal square is actually talking about the clashing forces between siblings. And so that person has the Mercury because it's like, whoop, that's the theme here. It's siblings. It's siblings. But what about siblings? So then you go through the rest of the chart to like start getting the more of the refining of the theme. But the ascendant is always a theme. So looking at the quality of your ascendant, paying attention to the degree to see if it's anything in the beginning or in the end. And then also looking for any planets in there, remembering that planets there matter also. You already have a fantastic starting point for your lunar return chart that you are looking at, okay, ahead. Now, give me 1 second here. I'm going to pull up mine. And I'm going to give you all a moment to just digest that while I pull up my charts and ask any questions that you may have. Do we have any questions, Myra? Okay. So it gets exciting though, doesn't it? It's like when you can see how much you can start, like, because hopefully now, right now, even as now I'm looking for my lunar return, you guys are looking at your ascendant point and you're taking notes. And hopefully now you are, you know, I'm giving you a little space here and you're just like, sing, oh my God, true. Did someone unmute themselves? Something to share?
Yes, I have a question.
Hi, Susie. How are you?
Hi. I don't know if you want the questions later. I was just while I remember it. It's about
Please go ahead.
Yeah. About the vertex point. The vertex point in the lunar return. How important or how significant is it in the lunar return? I'm not talking about the natal one, but
okay.
The lunar return.
It's very significant. That's a great question, Susie. Thank you for that. As you're going to see, we're going to more and more, as the workshops go on, and as we have also the gatherings of follow-up, you know, the different, I'm going to be popping up on the mentorship circle Facebook group as well and giving you tips throughout the month and showing you my charts. It's going to get really awesome. So as time goes on, we're going to be really seeing live, like, oh my God, now it's a vertex point. What does it mean? Now it's a Mercury. We're going to see everything. But above and foremost, know that whatever you have there, like I said, is emphasized as your theme for the month. Okay, it's your theme. It's part of the script. It's being emphasized. So that in and of itself becomes important. Now, the next step that you're going to do is you're going to see what it is. And then you're going to see the qualities of that. And you're going to connect it with your ascendant. So this is where you are branching out now to create your interpretations with what you're being given. So for those of you that don't know the vertex point, we're going to do a whole class on that. We're talking about it too, because the vertex point is so important. But the vertex point will bring important situations and people into your life. These are fated. These are what people call predestined. Okay? The vertex point is a point that people call predestined, fated. I don't like that word so much, but I say, you know, we it's just these points, these connection points throughout, you know, time, space, creation that are already done. We've already agreed on it's going to happen and needs to happen for whatever reason. Either there's a lesson for us there, or there is a karmic coming back together, or there's an insight that you're going to have from the experience that maybe you're not even going to immediately be aware of, but later on it's like so important for you. The vertex point is that, and it usually brings people, not always, but usually it's people. If it's not people, it's situations, and situations always involve people anyway, but a vertex point will bring one person into your life that is like that contract. It's really important, very significant. And if it's not a person, then it's a situation, okay? That makes that month very significant for you. It's a month where you want to pay attention because this is orchestrated from other aspects of you, with other aspects of you, and it's like things need to happen that month the way it is. So any other question here before I pull up my chart? July 25th. Yeah, it was July 25th. That was the last one. And then the next one is August 21st. So I just had my lunar return yesterday because yesterday the moon was in Libra. I'm going to go ahead and just share my entire screen with you guys. Okay. Can everybody see okay? My screen? Okay. All right. So as you can see on the screen, there are two lunar return charts. These are my personal lunar return charts. And they are based, again, so now we're going to get the concepts that I taught. And I'm going to start showing you how it works in real life. So let's begin with this one here. As you can see, the lunar return chart is based on my natal moon's placement. I was born with a moon in Libra, 4 degrees Libra. So all of my lunar returns are going to be at 4 degrees Libra. The moon is always going to be at 4 degrees 36 Libra for me. So if I go to my next lunar return, I'm going to see that my moon is going to be again at 436 Libra, because the whole chart is a lunar return, the lunar's return to its placement. The only thing that's going to change is the placement, right? So here my moon is emphasizing the 5th house, and here my moon is emphasizing the 12th house. We covered the moon and how to work with the moon and lunar returns on the #1 lunar return workshop. So again, watch that one if you haven't already, or if you want to review concepts about the moon and how to work with the moon. Later, as time goes on, we're going to learn about other things, because the moon is a primary factor here in the chart. It's the lunar return anyway. So we're going to see that, aspects to the moon are very important on the month as well. So that's going to be a concept I'm going to introduce later. That's just a little nugget there for the super intellectual, air-filled, jittery, excited students that want to know more always. We're going to learn how to work with aspects as well from the moon. But right now, the focus, there's a lot more to cover on the moon, but right now we're going to look at the ascendant. So for me, I am doing my lunar return. My base is Sedona right now. So all I do in my software, I don't know, what you guys do and what you use, but in my software, I come here to the lunar return section. I'd start with the natal chart, and then I choose a lunar return. And all I change is the location, and then the closest date that you want your lunar return for. I know my last lunar return just happened yesterday, so, I know how to put the dates, but you can just put, from the closest to the new moon, for example. If you don't know your date, well, what date do I put in? Put it to the closest to the new moon. See what it gives you. Did it already pass a month? Then that was your last month. Put the date close to the new moon. Is it a date close to where you're at now, or is it one that's coming soon? That's it. That's your lunar return. It's only a chart that works with for a month. Then you move on to another one. For this month, it gave me 2329 Gemini for my rising. Now, this is very important to me for multiple reasons, and this is a fantastic chart to work with and to show you here, because on the ascendant point, because we have all the components that I talked about as examples for you. First of all, we have the quality of the Gemini sign, okay? And the quality, definitely, I've definitely been just overall much more communicative. I've been having a lot of visitors over here as well, a lot of people coming over, and just a lot of Gemini quality themes for the month, as far as being busy, connecting, networking, socializing, and all of that. So if I were to add, the very basic modality, the elements, the qualities, I would stick to those basic principles of, the Gemini archetype. For those of you that are already in the Gemini archetype video series in my mentorship program, this is where it starts to get helpful to have all those components from the classes, including the audio. I know it may seem a lot. I give a video and an audio for each one of the archetypes. But this is where you're like, thank God she did that. Because now I'm not just approaching the mundane aspects of Gemini, which is jovial, fun, communicative. Now I'm not just doing the cookbook stuff because, I want them to learn fast. No, I want you to learn right. So I complement with the audio. The audio is where it gives you the heart and soul, the essence of the Gemini frequency. Because this is what's going to give you meaning. This is where when I come in my lunar return, I'm like, oh, cool, Gemini, fun, bubbly. Yes, I got all that. But I still had a very challenging time with everything that happened. And at some point in my month, I was freaking out and I needed to know from the universe what's happening. So this is where knowing the essence of Gemini helps you understand what your path is asking you for the month. Okay? That's where you get your keywords that you're going to add there, and you're going to try as many different components of the Gemini essence, all the way from the basic characteristics to the psychological ones to the spiritual ones, so you can understand your month ahead. So we have the qualities, the modality, and so forth, which is the very basic thing. Then I see that, okay, it isn't the ending of a sign, but 23 is not, I don't consider it like one of those, like, oh my God, wrapping something up here. It could be, it was also indicating the wrapping up of a segment of my mentorship program, because from this point forward, we're going to be moving to another one. But when it comes to really getting clear on like ending of things and ending of cycles, stick to the 28-29 degree. So for example, let's say that this north node here, the north node in Gemini right now, 28 Gemini, let's say that this was actually my ascendant, not 23, but it was 28 Gemini. That would be a lot more significant. There would definitely be a lot more sense of urgency throughout my entire month for many different topics, not just one. So again, this is where you want to look at the, is it in the very beginning and the very end? Is it 0 degrees, 28, 29, 0 and 1? Those are the ones you want to look for. And then in my case, I have a Gemini sun at 1947 Gemini, okay? So that literally places my natal sun in this zone over here, and this is something we're going to be studying about. So again, I don't want you to be like, oh my God, what is she talking about? This is only me gently planting the seed for some people and introducing a concept, and for other people answering part of their questions, because some people are already asking about this too. What if you have a natal planet that comes up on the ascendant? What if you were born, what if this is your chart, and if you were born with a moon in your natal chart? Well, not the moon, because this would be the lunar return here. It would bring the moon here. But what if you have, like, let's say Venus, a natal, let's use a natal Mars in Gemini. But Mars is not here in this lunar return chart, but it's in your natal chart at 23 Gemini. This is something I'm going to be teaching you how to work with. That natal Mars at 23 Gemini is going to be coming up as the theme for your month. I'm going to teach you how to work with that and what it means. But this is just me introducing little concepts so you can see how much can be done just with the ascendant. And this is quite a significant thing. It's my sun. My Gemini sun is coming up on the ascendant. So I know this is a big month for me. I know it's important. And again, here we are introducing the concepts of what the sun represents. The same way that if it was, the vertex point, you're going to introduce the concepts of the vertex point into what it means. So the sun, of course, for me represented a lot of sun-related things. I'm not going to get into that now, but that's something also very important about this month for me. Then the other factor is that this degree of my ascendant 23 Gemini just happens to be the zone where two transiting planets and points are in the sky. One is Venus. Venus was at 18 degrees Gemini the moment my lunar return began at July 25. So that put Venus on my ascendant. And the North Node as well. This is very important because now I don't only have one planet, but it's two. And for those of you that have been following my work for some time, know how important the North Node is in any chart. Again, lunar returns as well. This is I'm probably going to teach about this in the next class, because lunar return it's my constant companion. So, and it is working with the moon as well. So this North, for anybody to have a North Node in the first house is really important. Because now you have the soul direction, like focus on you, forget everything else. It's all about you. There's something that needs to, whatever, get your act together or clean up or self-love or self-image, put yourself out there more. It depends on what the rest of the chart is saying. But I have these two themes coming up on my ascendant for the month ahead. So just right off the bat, I have a theme here so big for my month ahead. And I will share with you one of them that you are already aware of. I've been really connecting with a beautiful handful of women that are the mentoring. They're mentoring with me. These are students that have been with me from the beginning, and that they were the ones that were the most completed with the program. And I said, these girls are serious about it. Let's put together a mentoring program to teach even more of these concepts that they're learning, and they are in turn helping me with you guys and the community. So it's a beautiful exchange, and it's been a very beautiful process for us, because we've been having a very, this is why I'm promoting the community also, because we're having this experience and it's very beautiful, and I want to extend this experience to you, and so do they. This is why we're creating these Facebook rooms and all these additional community support oriented activities to really bring this about. But anyway, long story short is that I've been having a massive heart opening experience with these girls, especially because my background, I have a heavily afflicted Venus and Mercury. And Mercury is the ruler of all my relationships in my chart too. So my relationship, especially with women, has been very challenging, very difficult. And up until like a year or two ago, like I'm having a massive heart opening, learning how to, reconnect with women and have friends again and all that. So these women now are participating in this part of my heart opening that's been going on for about a year or two now. Very personal process of mine. Of course, with my Libra moon in the 11th house, I share everything with the world, but it's supposed to be this way. So, but it's coming up on my ascendant. Look at this. Look at the Venus, this feminine energy, also in the realms of communication. Like this is the girls helping me with my work. The theme for me is my work. This Gemini theme is my work, a big part of it, because I work with this, the Gemini and the school and teaching, everything. My son is coming up here. So the girls are coming up with the Venus energy. Of course, relationships were very important for me too this month in many different ways. Like I said, I'm also receiving many visitors here in my house. So Venus is really implying that social dynamic, that heart-based connection, the affection in my theme for the month. And then this is also supported by my moon in the 5th house, which is the house of that heart connection, that fun, that joy. Look at how beautiful here with Juno. Here we have the support, the partnership. So with this chart, you can see how you can already derive a big chunk of your theme ahead just by your ascendant. Now, of course, there is a lot more to cover with the ascendant. We are going to be introducing new concepts. I know some of you have already asked, well, what about the ruler? What is the ruler? The ruler is the planet that correlates with that sign. Okay, I like to use the word correlation. I don't like the word rulership so much, because it's just like it kind of scrambles the the placements of certain things in astrology in your mind. But it's not about ruling anything, but it's about co-creating, and they have similar attributes. So I always use the word correspond, and that's what the archetype series is about. The archetype series, it talks about all the archetypes, the planet, the house, and the sign that correspond together. So for Gemini, it would be Gemini, Mercury, 3rd house. It's an archetype. So the ruler of Gemini, the planet that corresponds with this archetype of Gemini, is Mercury. So yes, this is another concept we're going to be learning later, probably also in the next class, we're going to see. But for me, I'm just going to show you this here because I have my charts up. I want to show you the extent of what can be done with these lunar return charts. And many of you are ready to grasp this too. So again, I will gently plant the seed. Do not beat yourself over it. Don't try to go looking at all the rulers of everything. This is meant to be fun, enjoyable, and a very beautiful, intimate communion with your chart. So I'm gently planting the seed that another thing we're going to be learning here is that with the ruler of your chart, you can get more information about your theme for the month ahead. So if it's Gemini for me, my ruler is Mercury. And look at Mercury. Then you take a journey with Mercury. You look at the house it's in, you look at the sign it's in, you look, So it's interesting because when I looked at we're going to wrap up here now, but when I looked at my chart for the month ahead, last July 25th, I was like, yes, look at all the focus in the 2nd house of money. I got the sun this month. I got Mercury. All my notes. I'm like, I'm so curious to see how this is going to play out. It's not every month that you get a sun on the 2nd house. Trust me. So I've been anticipating that. And it was so interesting to notice when you write the keywords and then you experience the month and you see, and then you go back to your chart and you're like, oh, that's where it was, that's where it was. And yes, while this was definitely a month where I had growth, I had growth in the mentorship program, and I also had growth with the lunar returns. We have additional students coming in just for the lunar return workshops and so forth. I definitely had a lot of financial growth. I also had a lot of expenses. You know, you see some of the pictures I post, you saw that I bought myself the binoculars to look at the planets. I'm like, I want to get even more in touch with the moon and the planets and look at the moons of Jupiter and the rings of Saturn. So I knew Myra was coming over. I'm like, Myra, let's look at the planets together. So we got the little. Initially, we wanted a little telescope, but we went for binoculars for now. It's been cloudy every night. We haven't been able to look at the stars, for those of you wondering. But anyway, second house. And then we have the extreme. It's all gone. The students are gone. The money is gone. The work is gone. Bam. Oh my God. And believe it or not, you can see it all here in the second house just by looking at the ruler of your ascendant. So yes, while there was an emphasis on money for me this month, it was emphasis all around making, spending, and then losing. So that was intense. And you can see that by all the oppositions, because now in your chart, this is where I want you to look at your chart and remember what I talked about in the last class in my Leo New Moon video as well. For those of you that watched it, thank you for watching it, because I'm going to summarize this now so fast that if you didn't watch the Leo New Moon video, you're probably not going to get it. But if you did, you're going to get my summary really fast. And this is why I ask you to also do your part and watch the videos. Leo New Moon, I talked about, this here is your make it or break it point. We are having it. Everyone's having it. This is serious. After all is said and done, after all the fluff and all the cute little funny things about astrology, we're all like here surviving and having massive transition points in our lives. And a huge part of it is seen by this make it or break it point. Now pay attention, because we're going to start stacking here. This make it or break it point is going to show up in everybody's lunar return alike until the end of the year. Because this is a transit. Yes, it's happening in the sky, but it's a very slow transit. So everybody's going to get it. Doesn't matter where their moon is, everybody's going to get it. Everybody's getting this make it or break it point. And in every month, it's going to show up in different places of your chart. The make it or break it point right now is being activated by the cardinal square. This is the second thing we talked about, and this is what I want you to go back and refer to if you don't remember. Look at your notes if you have notes. If you do remember, there's a cardinal square happening. This cardinal square is important, especially Mars and Black Moon Lilith, because the degree they're in, 1520, is creating a square with Pluto and Saturn. This is like the utmost, oh my Lord, dear Lord, like, geez, I didn't even know what to say here. This is really intense. Pluto and Saturn conjunction is already intense as it is, period, in any sign, is already a make it or break it point of Pluto and Saturn together. You have the soul, non-negotiable desire here, and then you have Saturn, which is, you know, a lot of karmic things and a lot of unconscious fears as well, all coming up and exploding and being triggered and activated by the Aries energy, which is not shy. When it needs to get something done, it will do it. And in a square, it will do it forcefully. So you got Mars, Black Moon, Lilith. This is painting a serious script for a lot of people. What you need to know now, based on my chart that I'm showing you here, is that everyone's going to have a make it or break it point. It's going to show up in your previous lunar return, your next one as well, and your next one as well. Okay, get those charts, find where those make it or break it points are. Now, it just so happened that this month, the make it or break it for me, check this out, it coincided with a really close opposition with the sun in my second house. So what does that mean? At the time that my moon reached 4 Libra, which is my lunar returns placement, the sun was at 2 degrees Leo. This is one of the factors that it's important, because depending on your moon sign, your sun is going to be in a different place. Okay? So I got this sun here in Leo for my lunar return, but a lot of people got the sun in Cancer. So that was telling a slightly different story for them. If you look here on the other side in the next chart, I'm getting also a Leo sun. Look at this, 29. Myra, I pointed that out to you. Anything at 29 is okay. It's going to be a big month for me. I know that. But I'm getting 29 Leo, whereas most people are getting their lunar return with the sun in Virgo, because we're dealing with the transits. Every day it changes. Now, the slower moving planets don't change that much, especially from Jupiter on up. So those are the ones that are going to be similar for most people. For me, I got this opposition with the make it or break it point. Many of you also did. And this is why for you, you may have felt that with men, with your partners, with bosses, and a lot of similar themes. This is where we get the collective interpretation, because a lot of these are happening in everybody's lunar returns. All right? This is how we derive collective interpretations for people. So I got this make it or break it point. Yes, there was a highlight there. I love the fact that I had Vesta in it, because it allowed me to be really focused. Like, you know, I got the Mercury conjunct Sirius, also 13 Cancer. So it's just like, all right, that's me with the stars. All right, guys, give me the plan. What's going on? But it was tough. It was tough. It was my make it or break it point. And when I know what's happening in my chart, and I know that my make it or break it point is active, why? As I've been saying in all my videos for YouTube and all the videos, you are wrapping up a cycle, my dear. A cycle that began in 2008 for you. It's intense. For me in my natal chart, it's in my second house of money, of all things. And then look how, like, my make it or break it point, the sun in my lunar return is highlighting the house of money. Like, it's culminating this. It's about, for me, the self-sufficiency that stems from my self-love and my awareness of myself and so forth. And it's a very particular journey for me, because growing up in the cult, and I had a very different upbringing. So when I left the cult, that's when Pluto entered my second house in Capricorn. And that was 2008. And if that coincided with the beginning of a house for you, if the beginning of Capricorn coincides with the beginning of a natal house for you, your natal house, that was a huge turning point for you that began then. For other people around that time. And it's culminating now. So pay attention to your make it or break it point. If you don't know what I'm talking about, refer to my lunar return workshop number 1. I talk about this concept and how to work with it in your lunar return. It's going to be the same concept. Use it because you want to know where the contrast is coming from. Now, if I look at my next lunar return, the make it or break it point is on my IC. That's a big deal. I know you don't know what that means yet. I don't want you to venture out too far. But what I do want you to know is just gently keep an eye out for the make it or break it cardinal square. Capricorn and Aries. It's going to be coming up somewhere for you. So IC for me next month is coming up 4th house, 7th house. Okay. All right, I'll just sit with it. I'll let my month go by. Don't get too stressed over it. I have my keywords. And as the months go by, I'm going to add keywords of what it was like for me to have the make it or break it point on my home area, and the fire triggering it coming it from my relationship sector. That's all you need, just keywords of what you know the 7th house means. Keywords from what I've been talking about, the make it or break it point. Combine it with the 4th house. And then wait until we get to that part of the class to really learn about it. And it's all going to come together beautifully for you. But you can begin right now by looking at your ascendant. If I look at my ascendant for this month that began yesterday, I see it's 16 Libra. So I begin with equality. Now I have relationships. Before I had communication. Also relationships because Venus is coming up there, but now it's relationships. That's a theme for my year. So I'm going to write down the keywords. Write down Now, if I go a step further, it's in the middle, okay, not beginning, not ending, the sign, but I have a planet there. This is where transiting Juno is. So here we have the theme of relationships highlighted again, not just by the quality of the sign, but also by this asteroid of relationships here. So, of course, if I want to go a step further, I look at the ruler. Where's the ruler? Venus. Something's coming out, something's being birthed on my midheaven. Okay. And again, the girls that are part of my life and helping me, and just so many other connections that I'm making, so forth. And by next lunar return, I will update you a little more as to what, how I've been feeling and how that has been coming up for me. I will also be popping up occasionally in the Mentorship Circle Facebook group, not the free one, the private one that we have for our community. And in there, I'm going to be letting you know, oh, remember I pointed this out. Remember this little tip. And I'm going to be reminding you, showing you my charts. And this is going to be just giving you that additional support as the month goes on. But just looking at the ascendant is going to give you a good idea for the theme of the month ahead. Okay. Check out number 1 for additional things that you can include, like the transits, right, that make it or break it, that everyone's getting. Seeing where to look for in your chart. Start adding keywords very gently as you feel comfortable, as things come to you. Don't try to figure it all out at once. Astrology is not, you don't figure it all out at once. Stick to what you know, stick to what you have. You're going to get a lot of information just with that alone. Okay? Any questions? Any questions? Okay. Thank you all one last time for the presence. Those that didn't watch the beginning, actually the beginning, we're going to do another recording. I do want to recommend that you participate of the upcoming workshop follow-up support groups that we're going to be offering, as well as the upcoming Lunar Return workshop that we're going to be announcing when the time gets closer, because these are going to build up and add to your ability to synthesize charts. I also want to remind one last time that I will be sending an email to everybody by Thursday announcing the official launching of this new grandfather mentorship circle project that we're doing. You have, your content is intact, is your content. If you need it in the meantime, within these next few days, this next week, send an email, ask. There's already a lot of content here to review, but we're happy to help you with that. And very soon we're going to be opening the doors to a brand new segment of our learning astrology together. If you know anybody that would like to join during this small window of time with this, for this prize, because things are going to change, it's not going to be $39.90, it's going to go up. Let these people know. I'm going to be making announcements shortly as well. But stay on the lookout for your email primarily for these announcements, because that's where it's going to be made, okay? Thank you all very much for participating. Thank you for your participation and sharing everything that you have as well with others in our community support groups that we're going to be offering. Super important. The same way that I show my charts to you and you see in real life examples the connection between things, it's also important for other students to see it with your charts. So thank you for the support, for the sharing, for the community engagement. We're doing this together.